Hello and welcome. You're watching us on cricket.com/TV, and we are building up to India versus West Indies second ODI in Barbados. And to talk comprehensively about this game, we've got Nikhil, Gurkirat, and Akshay. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Akshay would be joining, of course, shortly. Nikhil, Gurkirat, marking their presence here on the show. Well, now, because toss is a few minutes away, let's quickly touch upon the most important point. Because, of course, what happened in the last ODI when India won the toss, they wanted to bowl first. What do you expect India to do this time around? And what would you want them to do this time around? So please answer both the questions. Nikhil, starting with you.
For starters, I think India have a new captain. By the looks of it, looks like Hardik might be leading India. So that's, I don't know, good, bad. However, people may want to read into it. But if it means more chances for people in their positions, then I'm glad and I'm happy for it. Bat first, it is a used surface, it seems.
Hmm.
So the same one as the previous one. It should aid more spin. There was rain, so there should be moisture. Batting should be difficult. Do the difficult thing, get the batters used to those conditions, and then have a crack with the ball.
I'd come back to the same thing, but Gurkirat, your take on the same question.
As always, Paji is on mute to begin with.
So I'd like them to bat first, but I'd be surprised if they choose to do that. Nikhil's just mentioned that we might have a new captain today, so yeah, let's see who comes in and how India go. But really looking forward to India batting first today.
And we have somebody joining in. Let's see who comes in. Akshay has come in here. Akshay, I'll repeat my question for you. What do you expect India to do if they win the toss? Of course, if they win the toss. And what would you want them to do?
He's also on mute.
Yeah, there's something about it today.
We still can't hear Akshay. That is the plight of an RCB fan, any which ways. But yeah,
Actually, you need
Is
to go
it
to
open?
control panel and switch on the mic from there. It has happened
yeah.
quite.
West Indies has won the toss and they've opted to bowl.
Wow. I mean, much ado about nothing. Here we were talking about what if India win the toss and stuff. We'll get the playing 11 shortly. But before that, now, there's one point that Nikhil you mentioned about the track being used and also the fact that there have been some rain. So again, the two kind of balancing themselves out.
Yeah, I think it should eventually just make batting tougher because again we are only assuming here. Sometimes it does make the pitch better because it holds the surface better. So not a technical expert or at the venue to tell you exactly how it may pan out, but this is a good result for India as well. You'll want to see how they do batting first because batting first any which ways is a tougher thing to do in
Yeah.
this format of the game. So tricky surface, new leader, new plans, new batting order maybe. So much more excited to see this than what happened in the last game.
Hmm. Particularly the initial overs. I mean, with the rain and bit of overcast conditions, Gurkirat, how the batters kind of face that phase would be key.
It would be very important to see how India play out the first 10 overs here, because what has happened since the time Rohit and Gill have started to open is that you've seen a pattern.
Hmm.
Gill will probably take take probably see out or play out the first 3-4 overs and then look to get on the charge, while Rohit has been more aggressive and look to attack the opposition. Today there's no Rohit, so I believe Kishan will open with Gill. So it would be interesting to see who takes up what role. And yeah, if the ball is swinging or if there is any movement in the air, I'd like to see how Gill plays the incoming delivery, because that is something that has troubled him.
Hmm.
So yeah, the challenge is going to be there for the batters in the first 10 overs. I believe, I'm not sure if it would extend till the first 15 overs, but first 10 overs would be interesting to see how India bat.
दुखती नफ्स पे हाथ रख दिया गिल or incoming delivery. But here's a comment. Neutral hacks with Pasan says that India needs to bat first and play people at their positions, designated positions, and not really experiment too much. Of course, India would be batting first, not because they've decided to, but because West Indies have chosen to bowl first. But then talking about Shubman Gill, I mean, cricket, Nikhil, is such a great leveler because just before the IPL and during the IPL, he was in this red hot form. And since then, be it the WTC or further subsequently in the Test series against West Indies and again in the ODIs as well, that form has kind of, left him, deserted him.
Yeah, you can say so. I think form, rhythm, whatever people may want to call it, I think it has been issue that has plagued him in whenever he's stored away from Asia. He's had sporadic performances outside
Mm,
Asia. So very keen to see how he puts it behind them, because we know what a class batter is and the potential is always there. But when you know there is an obvious thing that is going to trouble you, and then how you counter it at such a young age is also
mm,
critical to your development. So
mm,
India will want to see that development, as Fadi said. The
mm.
first few overs, if he is able to see them off nicely, it will really set the innings up for him to then flourish and then put up a massive score. So,
Mm.
as Fadi said, it's going to be that early start, the first 15-20 balls, get yourself in, feel the rhythm, and then we all have enough time for Gill.
You see, you were all beaming when you talked
Yeah,
about Rohit
Akshay
not
Patel
being in
and
the
Samson are
11.
playing.
Yeah. And Virat as well is resting along with Rohit
There's
Sharma.
Virat also not playing.
Yeah.
I
So
can't
let's get
remember
an
the
RCB
last time
fan.
both Virat and
Yeah. Rohit were rested.
Yeah, we don't have to remember. It's okay. Somebody will bring that startup.
So let's take in Akshay's response to that. Virat not playing, Rohit not playing, Hardik Pandya leading the side. Somehow he's been denied the voice today. I mean, the it's technical glitch, or maybe his laptop has conspired against him. We'll try and connect with him shortly again. But again, Nikhil, Virat not playing again. Last game as well, didn't get to bat. India is trying to figure out whether its youngsters can step up. I think you're not on the same page as the team management on that.
See, again, it is something that you always associate with some of the managements, that you want to then question why are they selected? What is the point of them being here? And they could have might as well have given that rest. They could have
Yeah,
come home prepared for the Asia Cup in that sense. But again, these are things that we can only question because there is nobody to answer. So, in that sense, if they win this one, there is no need for them to even play the third one.
yeah.
So, in that sense, I'll just look at it this way, that maybe this was always their plan, but they wanted them to be there for some reason, maybe to guide the youngsters out.
Mm,
So, good on that part. Very keen to see the batting order, because those are two critical spots. So,
yeah.
who is the one who's going to bat? In terms of the sheet, it says
Mm,
Kishan and Gill to open and Samson to bat at three.
mm,
I don't think Samsung will bat at three, but I could be wrong. We could have
mm.
Surya bat at three. So very keen to see what roles people are being given to. I'm a fan of giving game time, but give
Yeah.
game time at the right time.
Mm,
There is no point batting a middle overs batter in the power play, or a
mm,
power play batter in the middle overs. It is not going to help them. You can give them 1,000 runs, it will not matter. Deepak would
mm.
have got you a century, but you then eventually played him at number six. It
Mm.
doesn't help anyone. So let's see how what the plan is.
and,
So,
and we saw
mhm.
this we saw this with Surya Kumar Yadav in the Australia ODIs, that when he had
Yeah.
to come in to play the new ball early on in the innings when the ball was moving around, he wasn't the most comfortable. So
Mm,
if the idea is to give batting time that way, yeah, then you know I'm not sure if it's the best way to treat a player, or being fair to the player. Yes, on paper you are giving them batting, game time and batting time, but not probably in the right position. So I'm not see, when you want to give players some opportunities or batting time or game time, you have to do it in a way where you are setting up them to succeed and not really to fail. So I hope that doesn't become the case here. But yeah, let's see how things go. And I think maybe they wanted to take both Virat and Rohit Sharma early on in the series, is because uh, they thought that in case if they lose the first game, right,
mm.
then the having the security of these two will
Yeah.
probably ensure that they don't lose the series. And we know this management is it hates to lose. I don't want to say they are afraid to lose, but they definitely hate to lose. So yeah, probably that could be a security cushion that that they wanted on this tour with Virat and Rohit.
Having taken that point, having noted that point, also the fact that with Virat and Rohit, particularly in this tour, there are no answers that India can gain with them playing, making a lot of contributions or not making any contribution at all. So just extending the same conversation, them not being in the 11, not really a major surprise, Nikhil.
Yeah, not a major surprise, as Paji also said. It's now about what are you looking at from Kishan,
Yeah.
Sky, Samson, and what is the role that you've given to them, that okay, this is now your role, and
Hmm.
let's see how you go about it. There is Akshar as well. We have talked in the past about promoting Akshar if there is a need. So these
Yeah.
are now chances to see what roles do these guys fit apart from the ones that we already know them to do
Hmm.
well. And because the surface is challenging, it will make it even more compelling viewing that what are their options. Suppose India comes across a deck that is slightly tricky, and
Hmm.
eventually, like it always happens, that you lose one of your top three early, then what happens? So then
Yeah.
this could be a good example to try that scenario.
You talked about the surface being tricky. Now, of course, this series is being looked at as a build up to the World Cup for India, of course, because West Indies will not be participating. They crashed out in the qualifiers itself. But the wicket, the way it behaved in the previous ODI, it's turning out to be an ideal preparation, not what you'd expect Barbados to behave like in the first ODI from that sample, from that evidence, Gurkirat, and how it was helping the spinners. I mean, the Indian spinners particularly ran havoc.
So I've just read the pitch report. It says that some grass has been laid on it, but there are some still patches from where the ball could turn or spin a lot more. Uh, and there's been rain before the
Yeah.
game, so it's very tricky to say what would happen. But we have seen with Indian pitches, and we have seen with pitches in general, that sometimes the grass cover up, is on the surface only to keep the pitch together, and
Yeah.
it's dry underneath. So if that is the case, where it is dry underneath, then we could expect the ball to spin just like it did in the first ODI. So very difficult to predict these pitches sometimes, because you really don't know how much moisture is underneath.
Mm.
But yeah, either way, it should be a test for Indian batters, because West Indies have also brought in Alzari today. So yeah, hopefully Jordan Charles and Joseph with the new ball
Mm.
do test. I'm hoping that they do test out the Indian batters.
You're hoping that they do test out the Indian batters in between. We have a comment along with Iyer, KL, Rahul, Sanju Samson, Ishan Kishan, Pant, Sky, middle order. They really play well, spinners and fast bowlers. Now, of course, Rishabh Pant, highly unlikely that we'd get to see him in the World Cup, and the focus firmly remains on the ODI World Cup to be held later this year in India. But again, Iyer, KL, Rahul not fit yet, but we can, of course, talk about Sanju Samson, Ishan Kishan, and of course, Suryakumar Yadav. Will Kishan open today as well? What does India team get with his runs as an opener? Very important question from a sports fan, and understandably, it's coming from a sports fan. So, what do India get? Now, we are talking about the answers that India is seeking. Rohit Sharma not playing, so certainly it looks like Ishan Kishan would open. Left right combination, yes, a box tick there. But if he scores plenty of runs there in that position, we saw that in Bangladesh ODI as well. What answer does it furnish to Team India? Nikhil.
See, I think if he is the backup opener, which we are assuming at this point of time that he is, then if he's playing at that spot, good for him if he's getting runs consistently, because these surfaces are also something that is not always been comfortable starting versus spin, or on
Yeah.
slower surfaces where the ball doesn't quite come onto the bat. So all these runs, again, game time at the right spot is critical, because then it gives him the confidence that if he's needed in the World Cup,
Hmm.
then he's had that experience in the past, that okay, I have opened in similar sort of conditions, I have runs under my belt, I know my options on these days. Something
Hmm.
that we've seen with Surya, that as Paji also said, you could struggle on these kind of surfaces if you don't get your rhythm right in terms of the batting tempo. So if Surya again fails, then you start to worry that okay, if tomorrow Surya has to be the one who has to come into the side, he's
Yeah.
not coming in on the back of runs. But at the
Hmm.
same time, if you have a Samson scoring runs in
Hmm.
2 games or in more games, then at least you have that assurity that okay, if not him, we have another guy ready and
Yeah.
scoring. So
Hmm.
having that option is far greater than having two people who haven't been tried and they'll
Hmm.
suddenly just be part of the system. So runs for Kishan very important, but far, far, far more critical for Surya to get into good runs.
So important to continue experimenting. I mean, probably that's my inference from that quote of yours. But in between, Sagar is really angry with the managements, and not just this management, but the previous one as well, because he says this assassination of logic started under Shastri, but now is deeply engraved in the system. Well, Gurkirat, of course, we take your take on that.
See, everybody when they talk about the management gets muted.
Yeah, I mean, is there some IT cell?
No, I just muted myself. Uh, this is a very tough one to answer because uh, with Shastri and Virat, you expected a lot of calls based on instinct because of the kind of individuals they are, right? And they were and they were happy to admit that, right? And some of those calls based on instinct also worked out well, like Bumrah making his Test debut in South Africa. So they were always like that. But with this management, the talk has been about doing things on the basis of process, but they have pretty much operated in the same way as how the previous management did. I just feel that, you know, maybe the criticism with this management is slightly more, or maybe not. People could differ because the expectations or the weight of expectations with what Rohit came in as an Indian captain was far too much because of 5 IPL titles and everything, without people really understanding that captaincy is not some magic wand. The resources are pretty much the same. The systems are pretty much the same. So how much can one person change? So yeah, there's that. But yeah, this I don't know what Sagar really wanted to point out in terms of assassination of logic, whether he was talking about, you know, not following a process or some selections, or just experimentation, because it's a huge, it's a very big, how do you put it?
Yeah.
It has a lot of facets attached to it. You can't really pinpoint one single thing, because one thing which, if one was to speak or make a case for this management, is that they have really suffered a lot with injuries. That is one thing that you cannot deny. Yes,
Hmm.
they've gone back on their own word. They've gone back on their own words, but they've really been handicapped to some extent by injuries. I mean, Jadeja and Bumrah got injured just
Yeah.
before the World T20. Now you have four players who are pretty much a part of your starting 11 being injured. So yes, they've been sort of done dirty in terms of injuries. But the sad part is that the things that that were under their own control, they've not done that well. So it's it's pretty much like that. It's very difficult to say that they've been completely wrong, or they've done everything that they could have. It's somewhere in between.
Sagar, meanwhile, has also issued a clarification talking about Rohit Sharma and captain being supreme leader in the Indian cricket setup. But again, we'd get back to Vasant, who has been talking about Sanju Samson throughout, including him in all his comments. Now, I mean, there are multiple points around it, and Sanju Samson, like Rishabh Pant to some extent in Indian cricket, he kind of attracts polar opposite views. I mean, there are some people who rate him really highly. They believe that he should be given a longer rope. Others who kind of tag him as inconsistent. Nikhil, on which side of the debate are you?
See, I think in terms of T20s, maybe you can say that you probably want more, but I don't think he's anyways got enough game time at the right role for him to tell you what all he can do. And I don't think India's planning also has been that smart in T20 format, at least, to have the right people in the system at the right time. So they've often talked about wanting to play hard, but they haven't quite done that. They played Ashwin and Aksar for their batting value in the World Cup, but they hardly used them. Rishabh Pant was, again, we go. The reason for us going back to the same examples are because that's been very, very evident. So, in terms of T20s, I don't think he's got enough chances. Even for ODIs, as he says, if he gets a 50, if the next game Sky is preferred, at
Hmm.
least all of us know that Samson is scoring runs and he's looking in decent touch. To
Yeah.
me, that is the positive that I'll take from this, that if he's scoring and if something happens and Sky doesn't play, at least you know that the replacement guy, as we talked about just a while back, that replacement guy is scoring and among the runs.
Mm.
Because in terms of preference, we've said this in the past, every management will have their set of players that they feel that they should be backed because in their eyes they have a very high ceiling.
Yeah.
And the best example of this is Rohit Sharma.
Mm.
The guy, when he came in and where he is now, is far different. No, none of us could see that change coming, but it has
Mm.
come because of persistence. So sometimes it may come, sometimes it may not come. But you can't fault the management for having a POV. But
Mm.
what you can fault them off is not backing enough. In this case, they have backed Surya to the fullest. Now,
Yeah.
if from here Surya doesn't score, it is nobody's but only Surya's fault.
Yeah. You used a word persistence. Sagar here has a question, just one question. What Gaikwad needs to do to play for India again? Persist scoring runs. Akshay has joined in. We were talking about Sanju Samson. Now, of course, Sanju's game against spin, we saw in this edition of IPL as well. He's taken it a notch higher. And considering how in the middle order, India does need such players who can go hammer and tongs against spin, his importance gets underlined. But again, the sort of form that he shows and the runs that he scores for India would matter eventually.
Yeah, definitely. And just to be clear, when you first mentioned persistence, I thought you were talking about me because I've been at it just trying to connect. Oh man, clearly technology isn't my cup of tea. But then, yeah, coming back to Samson and India, of course, it is very important for India to find someone who is proficient against spin in the middle order. Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, both of them not being available. I mean, yeah, so it is important for Samson and yeah, sorry.
At the moment, yeah, KL Rahul
Yeah, at
and
the moment, of course. And this is in some sense a test for Samson as well, given that the World Cup is a couple of months away, and this is probably his best shot, assuming that he's still in the periphery of the management is still considering him for
hmm,
the World Cup. So yeah, it is very important, definitely.
hmm. Rajesh is talking about the next gen for Indian cricket, and he of course mentioned Gil, Jaiswal, and Gaikwad. And yeah, that comment again surfacing here. Gurkirat, your take on the three, the trio, if they can become the next big three of the Indian cricket.
Yeah, so I think what Gaikwad needs to do to play ODIs is wait for Rohit Sharma to call it a day, because uh, I don't see it happening before the World Cup anyway. He'll probably have to wait his turn, and then when he gets his chance, then he should make it count, because there is competition anyway. There is competition in terms of Jaswal being there. uh, Prithvi Shaw has a very good list A record as well. His
Yeah.
list A record is better than his T20 record. People get swayed by his T20 game, but if you look at it, I think he averages 56 in list A cricket and at a strike rate of 120 plus. Those are some amazing numbers. So Gaikwad will get his chance. I don't think it's going to be very difficult to keep him out for long. But yeah, if he doesn't play as an opener, I believe he might just become a backup number three, because I feel once Kohli calls it a day, it would be Shreyas who becomes your de facto number three. Because whenever Virat Kohli hasn't played ODIs, India have gone with Shreyas Iyer as a number three, and he's done fairly well. I mean, and in fact, you could say that he's been outstanding in that position because he's been so consistent. In some 30 odd ODIs, he probably, uh, I think his 50s per game is under three. Like he in
Yeah.
under every three ODIs he scores 150 for Shreyas. So yeah, Gaikwad will get his chance, but I think post World Cup is the time,
Mm.
not before the World Cup.
But beyond numbers, let's talk about your instincts, what they're suggesting today. Because Santosh's question today is, what are the experts' fantasy picks? So let's start with Akshay. Akshay, who are your players? Who are you backing? And because there's barely any time left, so you'll have to quickly tell us.
I'll be backing Samson to begin with. He is a crowd favorite, so it's always good to go with him. Um, to be honest, yeah, I just wanted West Indies to bat first, man. I'm still trying to get over the fact that they're bowling first. Like, I hope just the only hope I had from me was to bat first. But yeah, there's Samson. I would probably go with Gill. He's not had the greatest of series, both the red ball and also in the previous game. So I'm just hoping law of averages does catch up with him and he sort of comes up with a good knock today. So I'll go with these two names.
Hmm. Nikhil, your picks.
Yeah, it's a side led by Hardik Pandya. I had enough scars of his captaincy in the IPL, so I'll be very, very mindful of my investment. And of course, it's a addictive game, so you should play responsibly and invest smartly. I think you should go with your gut feel in terms of who will get the most batting time, because
Mm.
you have to see who do the management want to see a lot of. So
Mm.
go with that visualization that you could see somebody like Kishan, Sky, Gill, they get a longer batting time. Akshar Patel could make for a great option today, and so could Samson and Umran Malik. So you have to see what does the team management want, who could they give a lot more chances to succeed, and then you could have your options, because everybody will have Hardik Jadeja as their common options and Kuldeep Yadav for sure. But if you
Mm.
want to go differential, you'll have to think about the game differently and feel that if it's dry or if it's damp,
Yeah.
who are the guys who could take wickets and then score in the second half.
The number of permutations and combinations that are involved increase in case of this management and also this series, because of course there's full on experimentation, and I believe rightly so, but of course you may differ. But again, for the fantasy gamers it becomes complicated. It's not just about who is more capable under a given condition, but also who might get more chances. Gurkirat, your picks.
A very difficult game to call because of what we saw in the first ODI, and then you right as you rightly mentioned, this is a series where India want to experiment. And when Hardik's the captain, you should by default assume that there will be experimentation, because I was expecting in the last game that India will open the bowling with Shardul and Mukesh, and Hardik took the new ball. So, and what's going to make matters tougher in this game is because there are three proper all rounders that India are playing with. So you also don't know. In the
Yeah.
last game, you had Jadeja picking three wickets, but you don't know how much bowling will today Jadeja do if India actually want to see Akshar bowl.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a very difficult game to call. But in terms of having, uh, I'd still have Jadeja, because I feel if there's a chance of a few early wickets, Jadeja could get decent batting time, and he's probably, you could say, in this 11 amongst all the batters, he's the most suited to play out swing bowling. But not sure again where he's going to bat. So Hardik Jadeja could definitely be your two players to go in with. And yeah, from a West Indies point of view, you could go in with one of Jordan Charles or Alzari, depending upon who you feel could have a better day, because ball is going to swing for sure. And yeah, Shea Hope is someone who you can't leave out. And then yeah, if I want to go for Shimran Hetmeyer, because I feel in the second innings, conditions will probably be slightly easier with the moisture being dried out. And he's one of the better players that West Indies have when it comes to countering spin bowling. India do have a lot of spin bowling coming in today. So, yeah, these 4 5 players I'll definitely want to go in with.
Mm. Vasant is on your side, Gurkirat. He thinks India will lose wickets early on with the conditions being tough for batting and the ball moving a bit. But then, Nikhil, of course, you'd want to respond to the comment to which you giggled, but I'll also combine that with a question of mine here. Only fair we talk a bit more about Kuldeep Yadav, particularly how this year has turned out for him in this format. Since the time he made a comeback in January, he has been picking wickets constantly. He is impressed, and he's somebody who really relies on confidence. Of course, he has the skill sets, but when he's confident, he is really amazing.
Yeah, and that's what you'd want, right? From the guy who's been among the wickets, that's what you'd want him to do,
Yeah.
to continue to grow, continue to evolve, and show that confidence when he goes into every game. So,
Mm.
as Pali rightly said, today could be the day that they hold him back and they try Akshar more. They could try Umran more, Mukesh Kumar maybe. So, when the team is looking for experiments, it's very easy to get into that mode that it's okay, but you can't take it for granted because you
Yeah.
know how difficult the circuit is, and you could
Mm.
easily just get out of the game after having a couple of poor ones. So
Mm.
Kuldeep will be very sure of, very very aware of that, and hopefully, as you said, the confidence is given by the management that it's okay even if you don't get the bowling as much as you may want to, but don't worry, you are like a safe bank for us. So that the player is not insecure, because
Yeah.
that is something that's very critical for players like Kuldeep.
That conversation has to happen in advance, because
Yeah,
then you wouldn't want your player to overthink when in the middle,
yeah,
why the ball is not coming to me, why is it heading in every
yeah,
other direction. But we've
yeah.
not really talked much about the West Indies team. Akshay, your take, overall assessment of how things shaped up for them in the first ODI. of course they'd want to prove that they are better than what happened in the first ODI and the qualifiers before.
They would want to, but it's hard to see how they'll do that. And it's a sorry state of affairs that that the red ball side right now seems a lot more promising than their white ball side. So it's hard to see where where they'll get their next superstar
Hmm.
from, because most of them have been playing all these, have been globetrotting, playing all these T20 leagues. Even right now, in fact,
Exactly.
it was genuinely surprising to see someone like Akil Hussain not featured in the squad. Like, you could still give Andy Russell, Sunil Narayan the benefit of doubt, saying age is not on their side, but someone like Akil Hussain also doesn't feature simply because, yeah, their management and all of that has been shambles. Not, I don't really have anything to say that hasn't been spoken before. It's the same old story with them. It continues to be the case. I hope seems to be the only glow right now. And yeah, Shimron Hetmyer, I was expecting something from him in the last game as well, but
Yeah.
yeah, the guy got out playing very 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 poor shot. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I think right now we should be just happy that he's caught his flights.
maybe.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully he catches a few other things as well, and turns it around. But yeah, like you were mentioning, there's no Achilles and there's no Nicholas Puran as well. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
The only, yeah, just one point to add to what Mega was asking. Probably that Pacers, both Seeds have, and sorry, not both, just Seeds have, like, he has been good. He has pace, and that is important. That's a very good sort of X factor to have. And
Hmm.
outside in West Indies, pace attack seems fairly unidimensional. The likes of, if you want to include Holder as well, there's
Yeah.
Mayers right now who started the innings. So Mayers, Holder, all of them are 120, 110s who swing the ball fairly unidimensional that way. So having
Hmm.
someone who has pace on his side, that's something good to see. But yeah, it's we're sort of right now nitpicking this. There's not a lot to look forward to be honest. At least that's my opinion. Yeah.
Plenty to look forward to, though, as Indian openers have already stepped out. Understandably, Ishan Kishan and Shubman Gill are our openers for this game. Gurkira did make a prediction early on that India would lose plenty of wickets early on. Whether that turns out to be true or not, and if it doesn't turn out to be true, we have a reason to pull his legs in the post-match show. And of course, we'd be
I didn't
joining.
say plenty. I said they could lose a few. There's a difference. Plenty could mean they are five down for not many. But yeah,
Okay, yeah, you can now play with those words.
कर लो डिफेंड कर लो कर लो डिफेंड
कर लो रिकॉर्डिंग है हमारे पास उसको हम
कुछ
वायरल
video पे है. Everyone can see.
Absolutely. Do watch it again if you believe what Gurkirat is saying now is what he said back then as well. But in any case, we'll be back with the post match show and we hope to see you there as well. And we'd be very happy to take in your comments, some very insightful, profound, and interesting, mind boggling comments today in the pre match show. We'd be back again with the post match. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining. And we would look forward to your company in the post match too.
सी यू
Well, Gurkirat.